Battle begin! It has been several days since Ash's victory over Serena, and in that time our heroes have made their way to Lavender Town for Serena and Lycia's next contest. Unsurprisingly, both girls excelled in the opening rounds, and so it is that we find them locked in battle once more, with Ali the Swablu facing off against Butterfree. Using mist to obscure the battlefield, Lycia and Ali have taken an early lead, as the Cloudbird employs strategically timed pecks to strike its disoriented foe before vanishing back into the haze, its cirrus wings acting as perfect camouflage. This briefly flusters Serena until she remembers her appeal back in Rota, at which point an idea forms in her mind about how to turn this mist from an impediment into a guaranteed win. And so with a smile forming on her face, Serena calls for a sleep powder, which sends the blue dust throughout the misty battlefield, where it clings to the vapor, creating a soporific veil that will surely put Ali to sleep if it breathes in any of the mist it has created. Lycia compliments this strategy, though does mention it is not as foolproof as her Colossian friend thinks, since Butterfree has already taken a few super effective pecks, so now Ali just needs to hold its breath until it can land one more, and the match should be theirs. Furrowing her brow, Serena urges Lycia to try the strategy, and with a nod, the teal-haired girl replies that she shall, ordering Ali to charge in and end things. Unfortunately, this is exactly what Serena had wanted, as when the mist cloud parts to reveal Ali beak aglow, Butterfree uses Gust to force a dose of the sleep-inducing powder right up Ali's unguarded nostrils, causing it to pass out and narrowly miss the bug type as it crashes to the ground. Between the failure of this attack, the ease with which Serena countered it, and the fact that Ali is now asleep, Lycia's points take a massive hit. And to make matters worse, each moment the Cloudbird does not awaken causes Lycia's points to plummet further, meaning that in what seems like no time at all, they are entirely depleted, ending the final round before the battle timer has even reached the halfway point. As is standard, Serena is then presented with the lavender ribbon, and as she beams for the audience, Lycia recalls Ali and slinks away. That Gust trick was so obvious. How did she not see it coming? And even if she couldn't, why didn't she counter in time? She's a top coordinator, yet her performance today would have been more appropriate coming from a rookie. However, in her heart, Lycia knows the true reason. She was distracted. She's been distracted ever since that awful incident at the Saffron Gym. Nothing in her life had ever been as terrifying as that experience. To be conscious but entirely helpless to do more than watch as her fate was decided had been horrific, but it had forced her to reflect. She was in that position because of her own failing. Once she had believed that she could be a superstar of both contests and gyms, like her uncle, but how many times had she lost since then? Far too many for her liking. These thoughts had stuck with her even after returning to human form, and now she's added another loss to her collection. Maybe she isn't cut out for this after all. Even still, she keeps her silence, not wanting to burden the others with these feelings, and so when she emerges from the contest hall to see Brock and Ash, she smiles and accepts their praises good-naturedly. Something about this attitude doesn't seem quite genuine to Brock, who asks if Lycia is okay, but reaffixing her smile, she replies that she's fine. Really. Thankfully at this moment, Serena emerges from the hall, giving Lycia just the distraction she needs, as she leads the boys in congratulating their friend on her third consecutive contest win. Serena, for her part, clearly loves this affirmation, especially when Ash begins to gush about how cool her battle strategy was. Though being a good trainer, she quickly suggests they go to the Pokemon Center to heal their Pokemon. Due to the Lavender contest having taken place at night to keep with the town's spooky reputation, it is already quite late, meaning no one has any objections as they begin heading for their lodgings, eager to have a late dinner then get some sleep. However, as Serena turns her back on the contest hall for the last time, she can't help but feel as though someone is watching her. This feeling persists for the rest of the walk, only letting up when they step foot in the brightly lit Pokemon Center, though all thoughts of unseen eyes are soon forgotten as she makes her way first to Nurse Joy's counter and then to the cafeteria. From here things remain relatively normal, with the girl chatting with her friends before retiring to her room with Lycia. However, when she climbs into bed, Serena is suddenly struck by that same uneasiness, goosebumps forming on her skin as she frantically looks around for the source. A little bewildered, Lycia asks what Serena's doing, with the honey-haired girl responding that she's just checking they're alone, since she can't shake the feeling of being watched. Still in tones of confusion, Lycia asks who she thinks might be watching them, to which the Colossian instinctively answers that perhaps it's a headless rider on a ghostly Rapidash who stalks the night looking for hapless Pokemon trainers to drag back to the spirit world with them. This immediately sends a shiver down Lycia's spine, or with a gasp, Serena claps a hand over her mouth, muttering something about it having a mind of its own. Thanks to Serena's scary thought, neither girl has an easy time getting to sleep after this, though eventually, exhaustion does overcome them both, allowing them to drift off. However, as their eyes finally close, a new set appear floating above them, the same pair that Serena had been feeling, along with a wide mouth that upon seeing the pair sleeping, splits into a mischievous grin. Soon the being's entire form manifests in the room, and when it has, it begins channeling its powers to cause several small objects around the room to float. Then with a cackle and a clap of its hands, it sends the items hurtling into one another, making a loud crash that wakes up the girls. At once the visitor vanishes again, causing the items to all topple to the ground, much to the shock and confusion of Serena and Lycia. However, the human gift for rationalization is a powerful one, with the pair quickly concluding they must have knocked the items in their sleep before falling back into their slumber. A little frustrated now, the figure reappears, and this time telekinetically lifts the girls' blankets and tosses them aside. This once more wakes the duo, though this time the unwelcome guest uses their wakefulness to announce its presence, lifting both of them into the air and spinning them around at high speeds. Understandably, this makes Serena cry out in panic, summoning Ash and Brock, who burst in demand to know what's wrong. However, they are not the only entrants, as with a wail, the being reappears, before depositing Serena and Lycia back on their beds, and begins frantically asking why the Closian is screaming when she's meant to be laughing at all its funny jokes. Unfortunately, this is all lost in translation, as to the humans, they only hear the entity crying out its own name over and over again, with that name being Haunter. Seeing that it is a Pokemon and not a monster, Serena quickly calms down, with her mind taking over to curiosity, as she wonders aloud what a Haunter is doing in her room. In response, Haunter proceeds to use the bedroom lamp to create shadow puppets, first of Butterfree, and then of something lumpy that they assume is Ally the Swablu, when it begins clashing with Butterfree. Through this, the group quickly come to realize that Haunter must have watched the contest and been impressed with them, causing it to come here to say hello. When Brock vocalized this idea, Haunter begins clapping and babbling excitedly, confirming this hunch, and now knowing what it wants, the girls give Haunter the friendly greeting it had been hoping for at last. In turn, Haunter settles down, hovering just above Serena's lap so that she can pat its head. The sensation of touching a ghost is an odd one to say the least, as the ectoplasm sends pins and needles up her fingertips, but Haunter seems happy, so she keeps at it until the creature is practically purring. Ash and Brock stay with Lycia and Serena during this time, discussing their plans to get back on the road tomorrow, as well as what to do with Haunter, since it really seems to like Serena. Helpfully, Lycia suggests catching it, citing its flair for the dramatic, and pointing out how this would be a great help in contests. Haunter clearly likes this idea, babbling once more in excitement, and having no objections, Serena pulls out a Pokeball and captures the ghost, bringing her team up to 4. The addition of Haunter makes the trip to Celadon City a lively one, as the group soon learn of the gas Pokemon's penchant for pranks. As the most serious amongst their Pokemon, poor Bulbasaur frequently finds itself as the fall guy for these, though no one is immune, with each of the Pokemon and even the trainers getting occasionally pranked. As a result, the sprawling metropolitan skyline of Celadon comes as a welcome sight to our heroes, with them stopping briefly at the Pokemon Center to get their Pokemon checked out before heading to the gym. On the way, Serena and Lycia decide to stop off at a high-end perfume boutique, though mercifully here Ash does not act like a crass boor, as thanks to respecting Serena, he also respects her interests, even if he cannot personally see the appeal of some of them like this perfume. With the crisis averted, Ash and Lycia are introduced to the Celadon City gym leader, who also happens to be the manager of this store, Erica. Erica is a refined and polite woman, with a pleasant demeanor, who happily agrees to both challenges, though she does insist it will have to be this afternoon, since she's teaching a beginner trainer's class this evening. Having no objection, the group follow Erica to the gym, where they are met by another surprise, Team Rocket bound and hanging from a tree. Frantically, they order the twerps to let them down this instant, but with a stern look, Erica retorts this is what thieves such as them deserve for trying to steal the secret to her perfumes. She then turns on her heels and leads the kids inside, though not before Haunter appears behind Team Rocket and gives them a fright. This over-the-top reaction is exactly what the ghost type has been looking for, and so it continues to assail the crooks with pranks, as Serena tells it that it can stay here if it wants. Angrily, Jessie snaps that the twerpette can't do this to her, but with a slightly sassy grin, Serena replies that she's just giving Team Rocket a chance to hang out with her newest Pokemon, before she joins her friends inside. Stepping into the gym, Serena watches as Ash takes his place on the field, the arrangements having already been made, and so joins Brock and Lycia in the stands while the match begins. Being a grass specialist, Erica opens with her Tangela, while Ash, in a stunning display of actually using his head for a change, chooses Pidgeotto for its gym debut. Recognizing the type disadvantage, Erica goes first in an attempt to level the playing field by using Stun Spore, but Ash is ready, using Serena's trick from the contest, and having Pidgeotto use Gust to blow the spores right back at Tangela. Though the grass type is immune to the paralytic power of Stun Spore, it is not exempt from the pain it feels as the equivalent of a handful of sand is blown directly into its eyes, causing it to squeal and try to rub the grit away with its many tendrils. This leaves the vine Pokemon open to a follow-up attack from Pidgeotto as the bird slams its wing into the smaller creature, causing it to fall onto its back and emit another high-pitched screech. Coming around for another pass, Pidgeotto readies itself to end things with another wing attack, but Erica and Tangela have one last trick up their sleeves as the gym leader has her Pokemon use Vine Whip. Lashing out with a tendril, Tangela attempts to strike Pidgeotto across the face, only for the avian to grab the blue vine in its beak and begin tugging, evidently mistaking it for a tasty blip bug. This just makes Tangela shriek more, causing Ash to notice that this thing sure makes a lot of noise for a creature with no discernible mouth. Meanwhile, Erica returns her friend, not wanting it to suffer unnecessarily, since it's clear she won't be able to beat Ash's Pidgeotto. Due to league rules, this counts as a forfeit, meaning Erica must now bring out her second Pokemon, which she does, choosing Weepinbell. Having taken no damage at all, Ash sticks with Pidgeotto, who eyes up the flycatcher Pokemon predatorially, then on Ash's command dive bombs it, hoping to make similar short work of it with a wing attack. Frantically, Weepinbell tries to deter the bird with Razor Leaves, but showing off its impressive speed and agility, Pidgeotto dodges each of these, closing in and ending the battle with one clean hit to the grass poison type's gaping mouth. After the intense battles with the other gym leaders, this match feels like a bit of a letdown, with Ash asking if Erica has any stronger Pokemon, a sentiment which his friends can't help but agree with, even if they wish he could have asked in a more tactful way. Giving the boy an annoyed look, Erica answers that if her Pokemon so far aren't to his satisfaction, she guesses she can send it her oldest partner, and they can see how much the boy likes it. In spite of this being meant as a threat, Ash's eyes sparkle as he beams that he'd like that a lot, causing Erica to unclip a new ball from her belt and lob it onto the field, with the Pokemon inside being none other than Gloom. Looking around with confusion, Gloom seems to ask his trainer why it has been called forth, evidently not being a mainstay on the gym team. Smiling fondly, Erica answers that she wants to battle with her old friend, before adding that Gloom is her last Pokemon, so she's counting on it. Pumping its little fists, Gloom lets out an eager exclamation, then turning to face Pidgeotto, it blasts the bird with a cloud of putrid gas. Being an enclosed space, the entire gym soon fills with the stink, as Brock cries that he's never smelled anything so foul. However, as Ash and Serena briefly share a look, they both chuckle knowing that they have, as this particular odor reminds them quite a bit of Lycia's cooking. Seemingly for this reason, Lycia herself is unaffected by the miasma, commenting that she doesn't see what Brock is making such a big fuss over, as she alone is able to pay attention to Ash's opening salvo. As it has worked so well for him thus far, Ash opens with another wing attack, but unlike Tangela and Weepinbell, Gloom is able to dodge this, flopping onto its back and spitting acid up at Pidgeotto, which burns away the feathery underside of one of its wings and sears the skin beneath. Squawking in pain, the bird Pokemon is forced to make an emergency landing, and as it tends to its wounds, this leaves it in a highly vulnerable position. Capitalizing on this, Erica has Gloom use Sleep Powder, which promptly puts Pidgeotto to sleep, making it even more of a sitting Psyduck when she follows up with a Petal Dance barrage. Unable to fight back, let alone run, Pidgeotto finds itself caught up in a tornado of petals, each of which cut like a tiny knife. The pain of this does eventually wake the normal flying type up, though it is far too late, as it is momentarily sent back to the realm of unconsciousness, this time with spirals in its eyes. Thanking Pidgeotto for a great effort, Ash next chooses Bulbasaur, pitting a grass poison type against a grass poison type. Despite being quad resisted, Gloom once again goes for Petal Dance, but with matching speed, Bulbasaur fires off a volley of Razor Leaves, which cancel the petals out. Refusing to be denied, the noxious weed tries again, and this time the Petal Dance succeeds, knocking Bulbasaur off its feet and sending it spinning in midair. Urgently, Ash tells his grass star to use Vine Whip, and drawing on what they learned from the battle with Surge, Bulbasaur drives its vines into the battlefield. This quickly turns the force of Petal Dance from a strength into a weakness, as when the torrent dies down, Bulbasaur uses its vines like bungee cords to spring back and deal a devastating headbutt to Gloom's forehead. Seeing stars, the weed Pokemon begins capering around drunkenly, though Erica is hardly surprised, as even if Bulbasaur hadn't struck Gloom's head, Petal Dance's after effect would have left her old friend confused anyway. Calling out to Gloom, Erica urges it to try acid, but all it manages to do is spit acid onto itself, then dazedly try to wipe it off by slamming its torso into the battlefield. Seeing an opening, Ash has Bulbasaur lash out with Vine Whip, though in doing so, he provides Gloom with just the assistance it needs, as a good crack over the head with a vine is enough to snap it out of its confusion and bring the battle back into high gear. Now that it's back to its senses, Gloom is finally able to use acid as instructed, scorching Bulbasaur's vines and causing the grass star to holler in pain. Wanting to keep up the momentum, Erica tries for another petal dance, hoping to finish off Bulbasaur similarly to how it finished Pidgeotto. But by now, Ash has seen the move enough to recognize its weaknesses, and so tells Bulbasaur to use Razor Leaf to stop the first barrage. Standing its ground, the Seed Pokemon obeys, batting away the onrushing petals with ease, while Gloom, now being locked into the move, is forced to repeat the unsuccessful action. Like the first time, Ash has Razor Leaf cancel the second attempt, though when Gloom goes in for its third and final shot at Petal Dance, Ash changes tack, having Bulbasaur dodge at the very last second, then come around for a tackle. As he knew it would be, Gloom is too confused to evade this attack, and as Bulbasaur puts its entire body weight into striking the shrub, it is sent soaring into the back wall where it falls unconscious. And just like that, the match is over, with one of Erica's assistants taking Gloom to be healed, while the gym leader herself approaches Ash, handing him the rainbow badge and congratulating him for a well-fought battle. Grinning, Ash replies that he's really impressed with how strong her Gloom was, while in the stands, Serena and Brock encourage Licia to head down to the field. Almost hesitantly, Licia complies, swapping places with Ash, who wishes her luck on the way up to sit beside Serena. When they are face to face, Erica tells Licia that she has a request to make of her if she'd be willing to oblige her. She'd like their battle to be a contest battle, both to save time and because she didn't get a chance to face her at the Viridian contest. Looking more closely, Licia realizes that she does remember seeing the woman's face among the finalists of that contest, and so with a nod, agrees to Erica's request. A short while later, Erica returns with her Gloom, now back in fighting shape, though the pair are not alone, as with them comes Nurse Joy. Smiling, Erica explains that to keep things as official as possible, Joy has agreed to act as a judge alongside one of the gym employees and one of Licia's friends, since this way they should have a fair set of panelists. Seeing the logic in this, Licia surveys her trio of companions, before asking if Serena will act as the third judge, since as a coordinator herself, she is the most qualified. Smiling, the Colossian girl agrees to help out, and as she descends to the field, a trio of chairs are brought out for the judges, while above them, a screen is projected with Licia and Erica's faces, as well as their currently full point bars. When the trio of judges are in position, they give the call to begin, and in unison the two coordinators bring out their Pokemon, Gloom for Erica and Ali for Licia. Nodding approvingly, Erica comments that just like Ash, she's decided to use a flying type, eh? No matter, she's already seen that Gloom can handle flyers. Wanting to prove this, Erica opens with an acid attack, though having watched her battle with Ash, Licia is able to have Ali avoid this, then retaliate with a stream of draconic energy that Erica recognizes as a dragon breath from afar. As this hits, so do Erica's points fall, due in no small part to the beautiful coloration of the chromatic beam as it bathes Gloom. Feeling her confidence returning a little, Licia decides to play it a little less safe, having Ali come in for a peck, but as the Cotton Bird Pokemon does so, Erica commands Gloom to use Sleep Powder. At these words, Licia freezes up, remembering her recent failure at Lavender Town, and so it falls to Ali to direct itself, retreating before the tranquilizing powder can take effect, and using Disarming Voice once more at a distance. Both coordinators' points fall somewhat from this exchange, as each side managed to thwart the other's attack, but Licia is still in the lead, a fact Brock loudly points out in an attempt to help Licia overcome whatever this issue is that still seems to be plaguing her from the last contest. Unfortunately, Licia's lead will not remain much longer, as still racked with indecision, she is unable to direct Ali when a glistening moonblast forms atop Gloom's head and is sent flying into the Cloud Bird. With a squawk, Ali falls from the sky, and as it digs a trench in the ground, so is a similar chunk taken from Licia's points, giving Erica the advantage. Over with the judges, they confer as to whether they should declare Ali unable to battle, though to Serena's relief, the chirping of the little Swablu makes this question null and void. Seeing that the match isn't over yet, Erica tells her partner to use a Moonblast Acid combo, with Gloom responding by charging up a pink sphere that contains smaller orbs of acid inside. It is both beautiful and terrifying, but fortunately for Licia, it is also time-consuming, giving Ali a chance to escape. That is if Licia will just command it to. Still, the Sootopolean girl remains paralyzed by her own feelings of helplessness and inadequacy after all her recent losses. That is until Brock calls out to her again, this time urging her to do something, since this battle isn't over yet. A moment later, Ash and Pikachu join in, with even Serena silently pleading with her friend to keep going. Finally, Ali tweets its belief in its trainer, and though the girl cannot speak her friend's language, its message comes through clearly. Together these voices stir something in Licia, something she had lost sight of recently, her faith in herself as both a trainer and a coordinator. If they still believe in her after everything, maybe she can too. Letting this show on her face, Licia declares that Brock's right, this isn't over, and as she orders Ali to get back into the sky, the Cotton Bird Pokemon does so with a joyful song on its proverbial lips. However, Licia's reinvigorated resolve is not the only new thing, as when Ali's song builds to a crescendo, a radiant light begins to emit from the bird, ground, engulfing it and transforming it into a majestic Altaria. The appearance of the humming Pokemon causes the judges and spectators alike to gasp in awe, though it does pose one slight problem, that being Gloom's Moonblast Acid combo. Now thanks to gaining the Fairy typing, this will be far more damaging, and as Erica has her Pokemon launch it, it is with the understanding that it will end the match. Previously, Licia would have believed the same, though now that she is back to her old self, she refuses to go down without a fight, having Ali counter with Dragon Breath. Once more, the beam of draconic energy shoots from the Altaria's mouth, though this time it is far more powerful, and when it meets the Moonblast Acid Orb in the middle of the field, light shoots out in all directions, with the mini Acid Orbs creating the effect of a disco ball. It is a mesmerizing sight, though not one that will be around for long, as when Licia cries for her Pokemon to go all out, Ali redoubles its efforts, empowering the Dragon Breath so that it consumes the enemy's orb, converting the Dragon-type move into a multifaceted glistening tube of pure energy that strikes Gloom with enough force to knock it out, while simultaneously draining the remainder of Erica's points, securing the win. Coming in for a landing, Ali is wrapped in a hug by its trainer as Erica comes over to give Licia her badge. From the side, the trio of judges also give their praises, with Serena calling the battle remarkable, before giggling that she couldn't help herself. Ash and Brock also compliment Licia and Ali, saying it was incredible to see them come together at the end for that big finish, with Brock adding that if they can manage something like that again, then they'll be shoo-ins at the next contest. Speaking of which, where is the next contest? Helpfully, Nurse Joy informs them that there's going to be a Pokemon contest in Fuchsia City in just over a week, which they should be able to attend if they make haste. Thanking the nurse, the friends depart, all eager for the next leg of their adventure. With Licia back to her old self, the trip to Fuchsia City is much more fun, with her and Serena both being fired up for this chance to compete for the next ribbon. Serena is also excited since the Laramie ranch where her mother is working isn't far from Fuchsia, meaning that after the contest, she can keep her promise to pay her mum a visit. Unfortunately, even with Brock in charge of navigation, the team still managed to get lost in the wilds outside the city, a fact which would normally not be an issue, except for the fact that when the morning of the contest rolls around, they are still lost. Thankfully, when the group sent out their flying types to scout around, Pidgeotto is able to locate an old traditional manor house, and hoping that the residents might be able to point them in the direction of Fuchsia City, our heroes rush over, unaware of the eyes watching them from out of the shadows. On first glance, the mansion they find seems to be abandoned, but figuring that maybe there are people inside, the team of 4 enter, only to find the entryway similarly deserted. Heading further in, the silence is broken by an abrupt yell, as Ash, who has predictably run ahead, receives a nasty shock from stepping on a Voltorb concealed in the floor. Worriedly, Serena asks if the boy is alright, though Brock has a better question: who put this Voltorb here? For it was very clearly planted by someone. This also raises the question of why, though with neither answer being attainable where they are, the group decide to advance with more caution. As a result, they are able to avoid a number of traps, such as the wall that falls away to expose visitors to a deadly drop, though unluckily, Ash once more falls victim to something, this time a set of shurikens thrown by an unseen figure, which pins him to the wall. Yelping, Ash demands this assailant reveal themselves, and with a smirk, a green-haired woman steps out from seemingly nowhere, declaring herself Aya, Ninja Warrior. Frowning, Licia asks what this place is, with a male voice from behind them answering that it is the Fuchsia Gym. Jumping, the team see an older man who introduced himself as Koga, the gym leader, before asking how many of them are challengers. Laughing awkwardly, Serena informs the man they actually only came here by accident, though when the Fuchsia contest is over, Ash and Licia will want a challenge for his badge. Looking stoic, Koga informs the kids that since they have trespassed on the ninja mansion, at least one of them must battle before they can leave. Having finally dislodged himself from the wall, Ash steps up, saying that he'll battle, though Serena protests they don't have time as the contest is today. Grinning, Aya states that if the girl wants, she can lead the other 3 to Fuchsia City so long as Ash meets her brother's demand by staying behind to battle. Truthfully, Serena doesn't like this, as she wants Ash to watch her perform, but seeing no other way, she agrees, while Ash shoots her a thumbs up, promising that he'll join them just as soon as he's won his badge. And just like that, the friends split up, with Aya acting as a guide for Brock, Licia, and Serena, while Ash joins Koga in a large room that looks like a dojo. Being a man of few words, Koga briefly explains that his battle is a simple one-on-one, so the boy should choose his Pokemon and they will begin. Grinning, Ash asks Pikachu if he'd be up for a quick battle, and with electricity crackling from his cheeks, the rodent leaps into action. Meanwhile, thanks to a ninja shortcut, Aya's group arrive at the contest hall just in time for Serena and Licia to register. When they have selected their Pokemon, they are instructed to wait backstage, with word that the contest will begin momentarily. Returning to Ash and Pikachu, they are staring down Koga's pick, a menacing-looking Golbat who wastes no time going on the offensive, firing off a Toxic on Koga's orders, which strikes Pikachu head-on and causes a purple rash to form under his eyes. Knowing from experience that this means their time is limited, Ash tells Pikachu to use Quick Attack. However, when Koga tells Golbat to use Wing Attack, the challengers are shocked to see that Golbat is actually faster, catching Pikachu in the stomach with its wing and sending the mouse crashing down hard into the wooden floor. In contrast to Ash, Serena could not be doing better, as she has been given the first appeal of the contest. Dusting off her amazing flying Eevee routine from the Viridian contest, she is able to enamor the audience as they ooh and ah at the sight of the little normal type using its tail like a propeller. Following soon after her, Lycia does similarly well, with Ali showing off all the power it has gained through evolution by combining Mist and Dragon Breath to create an indigo fog with flecks of red that slowly come together to form the outline of a fearsome dragon's face. This is easily enough to get both Serena and Lycia into the battle stage, and as they look at the matchups, they are pleased to see that they won't be facing off until the finals. For Serena, this is a chance to repeat what happened in Lavender Town, while for Lycia, it is a chance to make up for it. Speaking of wanting to avoid repeat performances, Ash desperately tries to prevent Pikachu from getting creamed by another wing attack, since Koga now seems intent on using nothing else, as he uses Golbat zero in on the electric mouse. Though Pikachu cannot outspeed the bat Pokemon, by waiting until the last second to dodge like Bulbasaur did against Gloom, he is able to jump out of harm's way in the nick of time, often causing Golbat to make a crash landing into the gym floor. In a regular battle, this strategy might have been sufficient to net Ash the win after enough repetitions, but that would require time, something he and Pikachu are frightfully short on, as the bad poisoning the little electric type got from Golbat at the start of the match has put them on a short timer. To this end, they must come up with a way to rapidly deplete the poison flying type's health, and thankfully therein lies the answer, as Golbat has a severe weakness to electric type moves, courtesy of the latter typing. The only question is if Pikachu will be able to get a moment of peace to charge up one of these attacks. Briefly, Ash wonders if this is the true reason Koga seems so fixed on repeatedly using Wing Attack, since it keeps him off balance. This would be an appropriate tactic for a ninja, but maybe by understanding what his opponent is trying to do, Ash can figure out a way around it. Back at the Fuchsia contest, Serena is up against her first round opponent, and wanting to give Haunter a turn in the spotlight, she calls it forth. Like everything Haunter does, its entrance is dramatic, as by melding with the shadows inside its Pokeball, it is able to give the impression that Serena used the wrong ball. Doubting herself a little, the girl decides to check this, bringing the ball up to her eye to examine it. This is exactly what Haunter wants, as with a cry of its name, it bursts from the shadow, appearing right in Serena's face and giving her a fright. Thankfully, the battle hasn't begun yet, or her shriek might have cost her serious points. But all the same, she lightly admonishes Haunter as it floats onto the field. Now it is her opponent's turn, as he calls forth an Inkay, which is about as bad a matchup for Haunter as one could possibly imagine. Nonetheless, Serena forces herself to look confident, as when the judges give the go-ahead, she takes the first move, having Haunter use Lick. Once again, Haunter vanishes, though this time it is only for a moment, as it quickly rematerializes directly behind Inkay, licking the revolving Pokemon's back with its long tongue. This sends a shiver down Inkay's proverbial spine, causing it to jump forward in shock and look back at Haunter reproachfully. However, this only amuses the ghost type, who cackles loudly while giving a merry clap of its detached hands, as if to say this is all in good fun. As she hoped it would, Serena sees that this has taken a toll on her opponent's points, and when he tries and fails to get Inkay to focus again, his points drop even further. Good. Everything's going exactly to plan. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Ash and Pikachu, as no matter what the boy comes up with, Koga is 2 steps ahead, using Golbat's other moves to prevent Pikachu from being able to use an electric attack, all the while letting the poison sap away more and more of Pikachu's strength. Not to mention that with all the times either Golbat or Pikachu has slammed into the wooden floor of this room, it is starting to become difficult for Pikachu to traverse its speed due to all the holes and cracks, making him more vulnerable to attack, while Golbat has no such issue as a flyer. However, this does give Ash an idea, and so when Golbat comes in for another wing attack, Ash doesn't have Pikachu run, instead telling his partner to use Iron Tail on the floorboard directly in front of him. Being one of the damaged boards, it takes very little for this to come loose, and as it shoots up to strike Golbat in the face, the poison flying type is stunned long enough for Pikachu to blast it with Thunderbolt, turning the bat into a smoking mass that crashes back into the wall. Even if this triumph does come at the cost of Pikachu wincing once more, as poison continues to course through his veins. Meanwhile, the tides of Serena's battle has also begun to turn against a poison type, that being Haunter, as after the first usage, Inkay and its trainer have gotten wise to the vanishing trick, meaning Serena can't employ it again. This leaves Haunter vulnerable to Inkay's dark and psychic moves, with even the ghost's quirky and unpredictable nature not being enough to shield it from all the super effective moves that are thrown its way. Looking at the clock, Serena sees that she is running low on time, and after all the damage Haunter has taken, her points have dropped dangerously low. At this rate, afraid she'll lose for sure unless she pulls out one last all-or-nothing gambit. Thankfully, she has one in mind, a risky strategy as once it starts, she won't be able to stop it, and that is to have Haunter use Curse. On Serena's command, Haunter pulls a big wooden mallet from inside its cavernous maw, and with a whimsical cackle, smacks itself so hard on the head that for a moment the ghost is flattened into 2D. However, this is not long-lived, as by placing a thumb in its mouth and blowing down hard, Haunter then pops back to its normal size and shape. Due to none of this affecting Inkei, Serena's opponent does not lose any points, a seemingly costly error, as by now they are down to the final 30 seconds of the battle, though this view is quickly proved incorrect, when out of the ether, a spectral version of Haunter's mallet appears above Inkei, taking the Sky Squid by surprise as it swings down to slam into its head with a fierce wham. Having not expected anything like this, Inkei soon finds itself splayed across the floor, while up above its trainer's points take a hit almost as bad as it just did. Now he and Serena are roughly even, and with time running out, they have entered the end game. Grinning confidently, Serena tells Haunter to wrap things up with Shadow Ball, and winding its arm up like a baseball pitcher, the gas Pokemon lobs an orb of umbral energy right at its downed foe. However, Inkei is not down and out yet, as on its trainer's cry, it fires off a Dark Pulse that meets Shadow Ball halfway. These two attacks seem perfectly matched, with neither Pokemon being able to gain an inch of ground. Then Serena sees something, the spectral hammer forming above Inkei's head once again. Yes, in a moment the hammer will fall, and in Inkei's distracted state, it won't be able to keep up the Dark Pulse, meaning Shadow Ball will strike true, and she will win. Then it's just one more battle, until she and Licia can face off in the finals yet again. Serena can almost taste it, and so it comes as something of a shock when the sound of the battle clock running out fills the hall, just before Curse can activate again. Looking up at the scoreboard, Serena sees something even more shocking, that it is not her and Haunter's faces displayed as the winners. It's her opponents who are advancing to the second round. Back with Ash, he remains rooted on the spot, silently waiting for the smoke around Golbat to clear as it lies motionless. Finally it dies down enough for Pikachu to get close, though as he does, he is met with a surprise of his own. It is not Golbat who lies in a smoking heap, but a substitute. Calmly, Koga informs the pair of challengers that a ninja is nothing without his ninjutsu, and that is precisely what Golbat employed at the last second to protect itself from the super effective Thunderbolt. Worried, Ash asks where Golbat is now then, but that answer becomes self-evident a moment later when the stealthy bat drops from the rafters and drives a wing attack directly into Pikachu's unsuspecting back. With a scream, the electric rodent goes tumbling forward, and as he hits the ground, Ash asks his buddy if he's okay. Rising shakily back to all fours, Pikachu barks in the affirmative, though it is clear that he is on the verge of fainting. Then, the poison flares up once again, causing every muscle in the electric type's body to tense, and as he tumbles over sideways, it is with spirals for eyes, signifying the end of the battle. Frantically, Ash runs up to Pikachu, wanting to make sure that his best friend isn't too badly hurt. Despite his stoic nature, Koga cannot help but be moved by this, and so pulling a secret herbal pill from a pouch on his leg, he offers it to Ash, telling him this is an old recipe created by the people of his village back in Kalos, and that once he has eaten this, Pikachu will feel much better. Smiling broadly, Ash accepts the pill gratefully, popping it into his partner's mouth and watching as his eyes immediately flicker open. When Pikachu is conscious again, Ash wraps him in a hug, thanking him for doing his best, though when the electric rodent tries to apologize for losing, Ash laughs it off, telling Pikachu not to worry about it. They were bound to lose a gym battle sooner or later, and he's just happy that they gave it their all. Nodding, Koga calls this a wise mindset for one so young, saying that Ash is welcome to challenge him again whenever he would like. Beaming, Ash promises that he'll come back for a rematch real soon, though first he's got to get to Fuchsia City so he can cheer on Licia and Serena. Speaking of Serena, she has finally left the battlefield, and is presently seated backstage, crying her eyes out. This is so embarrassing. After winning her last 3 contests, how could she lose in the first round of the battle stage? It doesn't make any sense. And what's worse, unlike the Viridian contest where she chose to forfeit for Eevee's sake, this time she actually lost. She tried her best, and it still wasn't good enough. This realization just makes the tears fall harder as she thinks about how she let herself and her Pokemon down. Having figured she might take it this way, Licia comes and finds her friend as soon as her own match is over, telling her that it's alright, and there's always next contest. Unfortunately, Serena doesn't want to hear it, and when Brock joins the girls, adding his own comforting words, Serena feels smothered rather than supported. Telling her friends as much, she thanks them for trying to help, but for the time being, she just wants to be alone. Respecting her wishes, Licia and Brock give their friend some space, though Serena quickly finds that this is just as bad, since without anyone else to drown out the thoughts, she has no choice but to mire in her own failure and sadness. Hoping a change of scenery might help, Serena departs the waiting area and heads out into Fuchsia City proper. Due to it still being early in the contest, it is only about midday and the sun is high in the sky. In spite of this, Serena cannot feel its warmth as she begins to walk, as if by getting away from the contest hall, she can escape the painful thoughts still swirling in her head. Though she has no conscious destination in mind, some part of her subconscious clearly has a plan, as before long, she finds herself leaving the city and walking down a long dirt road. Up above her, the sun begins its downwards trajectory, but Serena pays this just as little heed as she does her destination. Instead, just walking and walking until she finally sees the ranch in the distance. At last she knows where she is going, and so picking up the pace, she heads not for the main house, but for the large barn. Here a familiar face waits for her mother hard at work tending to the Rhyhorn and other ride Pokemon. Hearing the sound of footsteps behind her, Grace turns, and as mother and daughter lock eyes, Serena throws herself into her mum's arms, fresh tears running down her cheeks. Without Aya to guide him, it takes Ash far longer than it did his friends to reach Fuchsia City. By now it is late afternoon, and as he makes his way into the contest hall and takes his seat beside Brock, it is to watch the back end of the final battle, in which Lycia's Squirtle takes out a stranger's Smeargle to win the Fuchsia ribbon. In a hushed tone as to not disturb the other patrons, Ash expresses surprise that Serena didn't make it to the finals as well, but with a sad sigh, Brock relays the events of Serena's loss and her subsequent departure. Concerned in his voice, Ash asks if the older boy has heard from her since, but here Brock just shakes his head, though he adds that she's probably just gone to blow off steam and will be back at the Pokemon Center by now. Unfortunately, this guess is incorrect, as when Ash, Brock, and Lycia arrive at the center, it is to the news that no one matching Serena's description has been here all day. Definitely worried now, Ash runs off in search of his erstwhile friend, and though Brock and Lycia would like to help, they still want to honor Serena's request to be alone, and more than that, they know that if they go herring off too, it will just cause confusion, so the best thing they can do is hold down the fort and trust Serena to return in her own time. However, as it turns out, neither Ash's rash strategy nor Brock and Lycia's more passive one does much good, as when night falls and Ash returns to the center, it is without any hint of Serena's whereabouts. Thankfully, even though Brock and Lycia have not been actively searching, they have not been idle either, telling Ash upon his return that they think they might know where Serena is. They then remind him of what Grace told them in Vermilion City about her taking a job not far from Fuchsia, adding that they've spoken to Nurse Joy and have the phone number of the Laramie Ranch. Hastily, Ash declares they've got to give him a call, and seeing no reason to hesitate now that their friend is back, the trio head over to the phone bank. One of the proprietors of the ranch, a blue-haired young woman, picks up on the first ring, and not recognizing any of the callers, introduces herself as Lara Laramie, asking what she can do for them. Wasting no time, Ash says they need to speak with Grace, since it's about her daughter Serena. Adopting a sad expression, Lara nods that she saw the girl when she came by this afternoon, adding that the poor thing looked pretty distraught. Despite this grim pronouncement, Ash almost jumps for joy, saying that in that case, they'll just come to her, since they're Serena's traveling companions, and they want to make sure she's alright. Still in that sad tone, Lara says there wouldn't be any point, since Grace's gig ended today, so she and Serena are gone. However, this doesn't faze Ash, who shrugs that this is fine, before requesting that Lara tell them where Serena and Grace have gone, saying they'll meet them there instead. Sighing deeply, Lara replies that she doesn't think the boy understands. When she says the mother and daughter are gone, she doesn't mean they've left the ranch. She means they've left the region. Serena and Grace have gone home to Kalos. And that's where we'll leave things. What reason could Serena have had to go home with her mother in the middle of her journey? How will Ash and co respond to the loss of their friend? And will they be able to bring her back? Or is this the end of their time traveling with Serena? Find out as the journey continues.